This is the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla in the 3D Security and Training Academy studios.
In addition to being pro-life and a firm defender of our Constitution, including our Second Amendment rights, Martha is a strong fiscal conservative.
As 2014 comes to a close and we say hello to 2015, we look back at some of the issues that made headlines and we look ahead at what to expect in the new year. Our friend Martha Zoller from Georgia, a former Palin-endorsed candidate and common-sense patriot, is here to offer her thoughts. Sarah Palin gives a shout-out to our friends Madison Rising. A very Palin Christmas greeting. A brand new Commonwealth Common Sense with Susan Stimson is coming up from Virginia. And just ahead, our latest edition of Steel Resolve with Sarah Steelman from Missouri. Welcome to the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. The Palin Update is sponsored by 3D Security and Training Academy. Learn more at 3dsta.com. Now let's say hello to Martha Zoller. She was endorsed by Sarah Palin in 2012 when she ran for Congress in Georgia's 9th Congressional District. She is a writer and a great conservative, a Mama Grizzly herself. Martha Zoller, welcome back to the program.
It is great to be with you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. So great to have you here again. You know, we had you on when you were running for Congress and endorsed by Governor Sarah Palin. And, of course, you came on many other times as a contributor, helping out with some of our segments on here. And we really appreciate all the insight you've given us over the years here on the Palin Update. And, you know, thank you for that. But what an interesting year we've had, and that's putting mildly in 2014. I want to ask you, it's hard to talk about it all in one segment, but what stands out to you about this year? Because unfortunately for me, the big word to me is divisiveness, and it comes from our leadership in Washington. Do you agree with that?
Well, it is because, and it's really, you got to go to the head there, and that's President Obama. I mean, he is not a leader, and when you don't have a strong leader in the executive branch, what you end up with is divisiveness. I mean, I hate to give any praise to President Bill Clinton, but he understood politics, and when he saw things happening, he adjusted for the situation. Ronald Reagan did the same thing. I'm certainly not putting the two of them in the same category, but there is a difference between just saying, I'm the president, I can do what I want to do, and saying, I am the leader of the United States of America, and here's how we're going to get things done. And it breeds divisiveness. You certainly have, I guess the biggest story of the year, of course, is the election, but you certainly have things like Mitch McConnell, who, if you watched him closely, he did reach out to Tea Party folks within his state. He did adjust his rhetoric. Now, whether his actions will meet that, we'll have to see next year. But he made a difference in what he was doing. I'm willing to watch, okay, and see what's going to happen. But the biggest story, of course, was the United States Senate being won back by Republicans, and not just by a hair, but very strongly.
Well, you make great points there. You talk about Bill Clinton, and, I've said that, too, time and time again. I mean, people want to say Democrat Party. This is not the party of John Kennedy and not even Bill Clinton. And you talk about Ronald Reagan, how he worked with Tip O'Neill, or Bill Clinton with Newt Gingrich. But this president, if I don't get it through a vote, well, we'll go through executive order, we'll go through lawsuit, we'll do whatever the heck we have to do, play a fifth quarter if you're losing after the fourth quarter. And, meantime, you have some leadership on the other side that sits back and takes it. So that, I think you touched on this a little bit too. What do you expect from this new Senate coming in? Will they stand up to a lame duck president and Democrats?
I think they will, and I'm going to be a little different than a lot of Tea Party folks, and I consider myself Tea Party before it was called Tea Party, and I am certainly a fiscal conservative, and I hold up those values. But I'm going to be a little different than some of them, and I think that the Congress did the right thing by passing a budget that went until the end of the fiscal year. And let me tell you why. It was because that if Congress had been doing what it was supposed to be doing, that's what we would have had with this incoming Congress. We would have had a budget that was through September 30th. And the Democrats love it when we kick the can down the road. The Democrats love it when we go 2 months and then 3 months and then 4 months and all of that stuff because because we are policy people. It's like Spock and Kirk, okay? Kirk in Star Wars is the emotional guy, goes on emotion. Those are Democrats. FOC is more like Republicans. They want to explain every issue to the nth degree. And I think what has to happen now, though, is McConnell and Boehner, if they end up to be the leaders, looks like that they will. I mean, I guess you could have a coup on the Boehner side. That's possible, but not likely. But they have got to show now, and this is the key, that they can pass a budget on time this year and send it to the president to be signed. If they can't do that, then this has all been for naught.
We talk about the word divisiveness. When you were on last time as a guest, it was that whole Chick-fil-A flap situation, and we talked about that a little bit, especially with you being in Georgia with a lot of roots of the establishment there. Now we're seeing it from a racial standpoint. Ferguson, New York City, the displays against police officers. What do you make of that, and how much of that do you think is on the hands of an administration? You saw how officers reacted this past weekend to the mayor of New York City, Bill de Blasio, turning their back on him, figuring he had a hand in it, Al Sharpton, some others. A lot of people think President Obama put fuel to that fire.
Oh, there's no doubt that they did. I mean, the mayor of New York ought to be ashamed of himself with the way he acted. And I'll be honest with you, while I think the Ferguson situation, the grand jury was 100% right there. In this situation in New York, I can see both sides of that. I mean, really, are you going to take down a guy with 3 officers over selling cigarettes? I mean, are there not worse crimes there than that? I'm not saying that there might not have been a legitimate, and then I'm going to err on the side of supporting the police almost every single time. But I understand the concern that people have had on that particular case. However, how de Blasio has couched it really shows what he is, which is a communist. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Look at his history. He's a communist. He's not a Democrat. He's a communist. And he does not like the police. And I'm proud of what they did. I'm glad they stood up and peacefully. That's what a peaceful protest looks like. A peaceful protest is not tearing down businesses and closing people down. A peaceful protest is when you make a statement like those officers did.
We don't know the answer to this, but we know that you certainly have a great take on a lot of things and opinions on things through your broadcasting that you've done, the great writing that you do. So I'm going to ask you a couple of specific questions as we look toward 2016, because in 2015, this is when we're going to see at least probably most, if not all, of the candidates declare their candidacy, the major candidates. Is there a candidate that you feel on either side that is absolutely going to run that you don't want to see run? And is there one that you think is going to run that you do want to see run for president?
Well, I think it'll be a blast to see Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden tear down the Obama administration. Okay, that's going to be fun to watch, okay, because Joe Biden will not be denied, all right?
Yeah.
And, I mean, he has stood by Obama's side, and not to tell President Obama how to do things better, but had he used Joe Biden the way he said he was going to in the beginning, forget about the gaps. But he has great relationships in the Congress. He might have been able to get some things done the right way, but he didn't care about that. Elizabeth Warren will be fun to watch because she will show what Democrats really are. What you have to be careful with her is that she has got this populist message on banks that does resonate with independents and some liberty-minded Republicans. So I'm not saying she can go anywhere with it. I'm just saying watch it and be careful of it.
Sure.
On the Republican side, I'm not thrilled about Jeb Bush. I would love to see a Scott Walker, a Mike Pence, a John Kasich. I mean, it doesn't have to be all of them, although it could be all of them.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see a governor that's been successful. And I guess at the top of that list is really Scott Walker. I know he hasn't finished college, but he is going to do that. He's going to finish college this year, and I think that'll be a great heartwarming story for people. I think it was like a semester short or something like that. And he is a guy that really has been able to govern and change in a blue state. Chris Christie's a nice, dynamic guy. I have met him a couple of times, and boy, he has got a personality as big as he is. I mean, he is a very dynamic person, but when you look at what he's actually accomplished in New Jersey, not much.
Yeah, and you look at Walker, what he's been able to do in Wisconsin, along with the Lieutenant Governor Clayfish. They're really incredible to win twice, including that recall, yet have Obama win that state in between. So you're winning a state that is not going Republican, and here he is, an actual common-sense, Palin-backed conservative to win twice there. There's something to be said about, going out and actually reaching the people. That's a good point. Governor Palin has played a really unique role in all of this of late that I don't think we've ever seen, and I think the internet has helped with that. And since we didn't have the internet before, well, that's why we haven't seen it. But she has really been able to just affect elections, affect issues by just going on Facebook, going on Twitter, making her statements, and then rallying troops. You've done similar things in Georgia. You've been able to go out there and talk to people and reach people in a unique 21st century way, if you will. How much of an effect do you think Governor Palin will have as we continue down the road, not just in 2015 and 16, although I do want you to talk about that, but also as we keep going? I mean, there's really no one else who has that kind of effect on things just by going on Twitter and, putting something down there in a few characters.
Well, as President Bush used to say, I wouldn't underestimate her. I would not, I would not, count her out because she is the, someone that everyone makes fun of, at least in the mainstream media as well as on late night TV. I wouldn't, I think she is a valid voice out there. I'm proud to have her support. I finally got to spend a little time with her during the Georgia Senate race, which was great. She was just, a dynamic person, dynamic personality. I don't know what she's going to do. I would have, I thought maybe she'd run for Senate in Alaska. She didn't do that. I don't know if she'll run for president or if she's more powerful actually just shaping the message, shaping the message out there as opposed to necessarily being elected.
The one thing's for sure, though, she has been right on so many things. I guess we wish she would have been wrong because a lot of them have been, predictions of what is going to happen and what would happen with President Obama. And certainly, whether it's been Cuba or Ukraine, I mean, so many issues. The list goes on and on. The whole deal. And also, she's just been so honest and trustworthy as far as where she stands on things, and she backed you and others that she backed. She's loyal. I don't understand. I still can't to this day. Well, I do know the reasons, and you do too, as far as the far left and Hollywood and the media. But even some in the Republican Party, who you mentioned, Chris Christie, he's one who comes to mind. I see a lot of guys who just feel they can't share the stage with her, whereas Ted Cruz, for example, has been able to embrace her and say, "Hey, not only do I want to, can I share the stage with her? I want to. I welcome it, and it helps me and the country." So I wish we'd see more of that from the Republican Party and Republican men, especially who are elected or running for office.
Yeah, I think you're right. But look, everybody's got a group of folks that they feel more comfortable with. I got to tell you, as much as I like Ted Cruz, I'm really not leaning towards someone who hadn't spent a little more time governing. I think we got that in President Obama, and not to say that Cruz is Obama. I just would like to see a little more from him actually getting accomplished. He's an unbelievable speaker. He knows how to motivate people, but I'd like to see him accomplish a little bit more. But I think he's a great voice for our cause and for our side, and there are a lot of them out there right now. I mean, between Mike Lee, Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, I mean, there's a lot of great voices out there. I just love to see a few more women in that mix.